My beloved child, stop everything. Yes, right now. This is not a coincidence. This is not just another message you casually listen to and move on from. On June 18th, God is calling you to pause, to freeze in this very moment, because something critical is unfolding around you that your physical eyes cannot yet see. This is a divine interruption, rare, powerful, and impossible to ignore without consequence. There are moments in life when heaven breaks through the noise, when eternity reaches into time and demands your full attention. This is one of those moments. You were not scrolling by accident. You were not meant to delay this. God has marked this exact second for you to hear these words. And if your heart is beating a little faster right now, if something deep inside you feels stirred or unsettled, that is not fear, that is recognition. Your spirit knows this is real. On June 18th, something shifts. Not in a small, quiet way, but in a way that could redirect your path entirely. And that is why God is saying, stop. Stop the distractions. Stop the overthinking. Stop the rushing. Because what is ahead requires clarity, awareness, and obedience. If you keep moving at the same pace, you might miss the very thing that was sent to protect you, to guide you, to elevate you. Archangel Michael is present even now, standing as a guardian over this message. This is not just information, it is protection. There are forces you do not see, movements happening behind the scenes, and decisions forming around you that you have not yet recognized. But heaven sees it all, and heaven refuses to let you walk blindly into something you were meant to avoid. This is why the urgency feels so strong. This is why it cannot wait another second. Because delay, in this moment, is not neutral. It is costly. There is something hidden, something about your current direction, your environment, or even someone near you that requires immediate awareness. And God, in His mercy, is stepping in before it is too late. You may have felt signs leading up to this. A strange feeling you couldn't explain. A moment of hesitation that didn't make sense. A repeated thought telling you to slow down, to reconsider, to pay attention. Those were not random. Those were whispers. And now, this is the voice. Understand this clearly. You are not being stopped to be punished. You are being stopped because you are chosen. Because your path matters. Because what is about to unfold in your life carries weight, purpose, and consequence. And God will not allow you to walk into it unprepared. So take this seriously. Let everything else fade for a moment. Because this is the kind of message that only comes once in a lifetime, clear, urgent, and filled with divine authority. June 18th is not just a date. It is a line, a turning point, a moment where everything can change depending on whether you listen or whether you ignore. The question is no longer whether this message is real. The question is, will you stop long enough to understand why it was sent to you now? There is a reason this interruption feels so strong, so direct, and almost impossible to ignore. God does not step into your routine like this without purpose. When He says stop everything, it is not random, it is precise. It is intentional. It is the kind of command that comes when something deeper is at stake than what you can currently see or understand. You have been moving quickly, trying to keep up with life, responsibilities, thoughts, and expectations. On the surface, everything may seem normal. You wake up, you go through your day, you handle what needs to be handled. But beneath that surface, something has been quietly shifting. A misalignment has been forming, not because you intended it, but because life has been pulling your attention in too many directions at once. This is how it happens. Distractions don't always look dangerous. Sometimes they look like productivity. Sometimes they look like responsibilities. Sometimes they even look like opportunities. But not everything that moves you forward is meant for you. Not everything that demands your time deserves your focus. And when too many things crowd your path, you begin to lose clarity without even realizing it. God sees what you cannot see. He sees the path you are on and where it leads if nothing changes. He sees the conversations forming, the decisions approaching, the influences surrounding you. And more importantly, He sees the exact moment where a small step in the wrong direction could create a ripple effect you were never meant to experience. That is why He is forcing this pause. This is not about slowing you down for no reason. This is about protecting your direction. Because sometimes the greatest danger is not obvious. It does not come with warning signs or loud alarms. It comes quietly, disguised as something harmless, something acceptable, something you would never question. And before you know it, you are further away from where you were meant to be. Archangel Michael is not just standing by passively. There is active protection happening around you right now. But protection also requires participation. Heaven can warn you, guide you, and even block certain paths. But you must be willing to stop and listen. You must be willing to recognize that this moment is not ordinary. Think about the times you felt a sudden hesitation when something inside you said, wait. Maybe you ignored it. Maybe you pushed through because it didn't make logical sense. But that inner signal was not confusion. It was guidance. And now, the same guidance has become louder, clearer, and impossible to overlook. God is not trying to confuse you. He is trying to realign you. There is something ahead that requires your full awareness. A conversation, a decision, or even a realization that could change everything. But if you remain distracted, if you keep moving without pausing, you risk stepping into it unprepared. And this is exactly what heaven is trying to prevent. You may be wondering why now? Why June 18th? Why this exact moment? Because timing matters. There are moments when everything converges, your path, other people's actions, unseen spiritual movements. And in those moments, even a small decision can carry great weight. This is one of those moments. Stopping does not mean losing progress. It means gaining vision. It means stepping back long enough to see what was hidden while you were moving too fast. It means allowing God to show you what truly matters before you take another step. So do not resist this pause. Do not brush it aside as something insignificant. This is not a delay. This is direction. And what you choose to do in the stillness will determine what unfolds next in ways you cannot yet imagine. Because sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to stop. Listen closely, because what you are about to understand is not something the physical world easily explains. Right now, there is an invisible battle unfolding around you. It is not loud. It is not obvious. But it is real. And it is the very reason why God has commanded you to stop everything immediately. You may have thought your recent struggles were random. The sudden heaviness, the confusion, the delays that made no sense, the tension you couldn't explain. These are not isolated incidents. They are signs of a deeper spiritual movement. There are forces working quietly behind the scenes, influencing situations, shifting outcomes, and attempting to pull you away from the path that was divinely designed for you. But hear this clearly, you are not alone in this battle. Archangel Michael is not distant. He is not unaware. He is actively engaged, standing as a warrior of light in your defense. While you were going about your days, unaware of the full picture, He has been fighting battles you never even saw. Battles that, if left unchecked, could have altered your direction in ways you were never meant to experience. This is why the message feels urgent. Because spiritual battles do not wait for convenience. They do not pause while you figure things out. They move continuously, influencing thoughts, opportunities, relationships, and decisions. And if you remain unaware, you can be guided without realizing it, not by truth, but by subtle deception. Have you noticed how certain thoughts have been repeating in your mind? Thoughts that bring doubt, hesitation, or confusion. Have you felt moments where your energy suddenly dropped, where your clarity disappeared, or where something just felt off without explanation? These are not random emotional shifts. These are indicators that something deeper is trying to interfere with your focus and your direction. This is why God is interrupting you now. Because awareness is protection. The moment you become aware, the moment you stop and truly see what is happening, everything begins to change. The confusion starts to lose its power. The distractions become visible. The things that once seemed harmless begin to reveal their true nature. And suddenly, you are no longer walking blindly. You are walking with discernment. But this awareness requires stillness. It requires you to pause long enough to recognize the patterns, to feel what your spirit hath been trying to tell you all along. Because the battle is not just around you. It is also trying to reach within you, through your thoughts, your emotions, and your decisions. And this is where your power lies. Because once you recognize the battle, you are no longer a passive participant. You become aligned with divine protection. You begin to move differently. You begin to choose differently. And most importantly, you begin to see what was once hidden. This is not meant to bring fear. It is meant to bring clarity. Because for every unseen force working against you, there is a greater force working for you. For every moment of confusion, there is a greater clarity waiting to be revealed. And for every hidden attack, there is a shield already in place, if you choose to step into awareness. That is why this message cannot wait. Because the longer you remain unaware, the easier it is for subtle influences to shape your path without your permission. But the moment you stop, the moment you listen, the moment you open your awareness, everything begins to shift in your favor. You were never meant to lose this battle, but you were meant to recognize it. So right now, take this as your confirmation. What you've been feeling is real. What you've been sensing is not your imagination. And what is happening around you has a purpose, but it will not succeed if you remain aligned with truth. Type I see clearly now in the comments if this message is speaking directly to your spirit. Blessing code 5931 has just been released over your life. And as this truth settles into your heart, understand this sacred moment, because just like you were called to stop and receive this warning, others are still walking unaware, still moving through confusion without clarity. When you sow into this mission, you become a vessel that helps open their eyes to. God is saying, as you give, I will pour back into you, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. If you feel this stirring within you, say it boldly. I am part of this divine assignment. The links to support through PayPal are placed in the description and available through the QR code on your screen. This is not just giving. It is planting light where darkness once stood. Step into this moment and release what God is placing on your heart right now. There is something you need to face with honesty right now. This moment did not begin today. This message did not appear out of nowhere. Long before June 18th was even on your mind, there were signs, quiet, persistent, and repeated signs that tried to get your attention. but you brushed them aside. You told yourself it was nothing. You kept moving. Yet here you are hearing this now. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation. God has always spoken to you, but not always in loud, unmistakable ways. Sometimes His voice comes as a feeling you cannot explain. Sometimes it shows up as a sudden discomfort in a situation that looks perfectly fine on the surface. Sometimes it repeats through patterns, through people, through conversations, through moments that seem unrelated but carry the same message underneath. Think back carefully. There was a moment when something didn't sit right with you. A decision you were about to make, a direction you were about to take, or even a person whose presence felt slightly off. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't dramatic. But it was there, a quiet signal trying to slow you down. And what did you do? You kept going. Not because you were careless, but because it didn't make sense at the time. You needed proof. You needed clarity. And when it didn't come immediately, you chose logic over intuition. You chose movement over stillness. You chose to trust what you could see rather than what you could feel. But now, everything is coming back into focus. Those moments were not random. They were not overthinking. They were not your imagination. They were signals, intentional, precise, and divinely placed to guide you. And the fact that they are resurfacing in your memory right now is not accidental. It is happening because this message is connecting the dots for you. God speaks in patterns because patterns demand attention. One sign can be ignored. Two can be questioned. But when something repeats itself, when the same feeling, the same hesitation, or the same thought keeps returning, it carries meaning. It carries urgency. It carries truth that refuses to stay hidden. This is what you are being asked to recognize now. There is a pattern in your life that you were never meant to ignore. And June 18th is the moment where that pattern becomes impossible to dismiss. It is the moment where everything aligns in a way that forces clarity upon you. And here is the deeper truth. You were not meant to understand it earlier. If you had fully understood it back then, you might have acted out of fear. You might have made rushed decisions. You might have tried to control something that required divine timing. But now you are ready to see it clearly, without panic, without confusion, and without doubt. This is the difference between a whisper and a command. Before God whispered, now He is speaking with authority. Before you felt it quietly, and now you are hearing it directly. And the reason is simple. The time for uncertainty has passed. The time for clarity has arrived. This is why stopping is no longer optional. Because once you see the pattern, once you recognize the signs, you cannot continue as if nothing has changed. Awareness brings responsibility. It shifts how you move, how you think, and how you respond to what is in front of you. You may feel a mix of emotions right now. Realization, regret, even a sense of I should have listened earlier. But release the thought immediately. Because this moment is not about what you missed. It is about what you are about to understand. God does not bring clarity to condemn you. He brings clarity to redirect you. And this redirection is happening now, at the exact moment it needs to happen. So take a breath and allow yourself to fully receive this truth. The signs were real. The feelings were valid. And the pattern you are now seeing is not something to fear. It is something to follow with wisdom. Because what once felt like confusion is now becoming direction. And what once seemed like coincidence is now revealing itself as divine alignment. There is a truth you must hear, and it may feel heavy at first, but it is spoken with love, not fear. When God says stop everything immediately, it is not a suggestion. It is a warning wrapped in protection. And if that warning is ignored, the consequences are not always instant, but they are real. If you continue moving without pausing, without reflecting, without allowing clarity to settle in, you risk stepping into a direction that was never meant for you. Not because you are destined for failure, but because you are operating without full awareness. And when awareness is missing, even good intentions can lead you down the wrong path. This is how it begins. A small decision made too quickly. A conversation accepted without discernment. A feeling ignored one more time. It seems harmless in the moment. It feels like just another step forward. But what you cannot see is how that single step connects to a chain of events already forming ahead of you. And once you are in motion, it becomes harder to turn back. This is why God is intervening now, before the step is taken, before the door is fully opened, before the situation becomes something you must recover from instead of something you could have avoided. Understand this clearly. Ignoring this pause does not mean everything will suddenly collapse. It means something more subtle, more dangerous. It means you may continue forward, unaware that you have drifted slightly off course, and that slight shift, over time, creates distance between you and what was originally meant for you. Missed clarity leads to missed timing. Missed timing leads to missed alignment. And missed alignment leads to unnecessary struggle. You may find yourself asking later, why is this so difficult? Or why does something feel off even though I'm doing everything right? And the answer will trace back to this very moment. The moment where you were asked to stop, but chose to continue. But even now, this is not being revealed to bring fear into your heart. It is being revealed to awaken responsibility within you. Because you still have the power to choose differently. You still have the ability to pause, to observe, to listen, and to realign. This is the mercy of God. He did not wait for you to fall before warning you. He does not allow confusion to consume you without sending clarity. And He does not remain silent when something important is at risk. This message itself is proof that you are being protected in advance. There is something specific about your current path that requires attention. It could be a direction you are pursuing too quickly. It could be trust placed in the wrong place. It could be an opportunity that looks right but feels slightly unsettled deep within your spirit. And that feeling, that subtle unease, is not something to dismiss. It is guidance. But guidance only works when it is acknowledged. If you ignore it, it fades into the background, drowned out by logic, urgency, and the desire to keep moving forward. But if you honor it, if you stop and truly examine what is happening, it becomes clearer, stronger, and more precise. This is the choice before you now. To continue as you were, hoping everything will align on its own, or to stop, even if it feels inconvenient, and allow God to reveal what you need to see before you take another step. Because what is at stake is not just a moment, it is your direction. And direction determines outcomes. It determines the people you encounter, the opportunities you accept, and the experiences you walk into. A single moment of awareness can prevent months, even years, of confusion. And that is exactly what is being offered to you right now. So do not underestimate this instruction. Do not treat it as something optional or temporary. This is a divine checkpoint placed directly in your path for a reason. Because once you move past it without stopping, you may not recognize what you've missed until much later. But if you stop now, everything can still shift in your favor. There is something you need to understand with complete clarity. What God is revealing to you now is not surface level. This is not about something obvious that anyone could easily point out. The danger in your current path is hidden. It is subtle, is layered beneath what appears normal, acceptable, and even beneficial. And that is exactly why it is dangerous. If it were obvious, you would have already avoided it. If it were loud, you would have already stepped back. But this is something that blends into your daily life so smoothly that it almost escapes your awareness. Almost, but not completely. Because deep within you, there has been a signal, a quiet discomfort, a hesitation you couldn't explain, a moment where everything seemed right, but something inside you whispered, "Look again." That whisper was not doubt, it was discernment. Right now, there is an influence in your life that is not aligned with where you are meant to go. It could be a person whose intentions are not as clear as they seem. It could be an environment that is slowly draining your clarity. It could even be a habit or routine that feels productive but is quietly pulling you away from your true direction. The danger is not in how it looks. The danger is in what it leads to. Because not everything harmful appears negative at the beginning. Some things enter your life disguised as opportunities, as connections, as necessary steps forward. They feel right in the moment. They make sense logically. But spiritually, they create distance between you and the path that was designed specifically for you. And distance, even when it starts small, grows over time. This is why God is calling you to stop now, before that distance increases, before that influence becomes stronger, before that path becomes harder to step away from. There is something about your current direction that requires deeper examination, not surface thinking, not quick conclusions, but stillness, awareness, honesty. Ask yourself this, and answer it truthfully. What in your life right now feels slightly off, even if you cannot fully explain why? Do not rush past that question, because the answer is already within you. You may have ignored it before because it didn't come with clear evidence. You may have told yourself you were overthinking, but you were not overthinking. You were sensing something that had not yet revealed itself fully. And now, it is time to pay attention. Archangel Michael is not only fighting battles around you, he is also helping illuminate what has been hidden from your view. This is not about fear. This is about clarity. Because once you see something for what it truly is, it loses its ability to mislead you. But clarity requires courage. It requires you to be honest about what you feel, even if it contradicts what you want. It requires you to step back, even if everything around you is pushing you to move forward. And it requires you to trust that what God is revealing now is for your protection, not your restriction. There is a reason this message is reaching you before anything has fully unfolded. It is because you are being given the opportunity to choose differently before consequences take form. That is grace. Many people only realize they were on the wrong path after they have already walked too far into it. But you are being shown in advance. You are being given awareness before impact. And that changes everything. So do not ignore what you feel in this moment. Do not brush aside the subtle signals that are rising within you. They are not random. They are not meaningless. They are pointing you towards something that needs your attention right now. Because once something hidden becomes visible, you are no longer meant to pretend you did not see it. This is your moment of recognition. This is where everything begins to shift. And what you choose to do with this awareness will determine whether you continue down a path that leads to confusion, or step into a direction that brings clarity, protection, and alignment with what was always meant for you. There is a powerful truth unfolding around you right now, and it changes everything you thought you were facing alone. What you are experiencing is not just a warning, it is an intervention. A divine, strategic, and intentional intervention led by Archangel Michael himself. You were never meant to fight unseen battles by yourself. While you were trying to make sense of confusion, while you were navigating uncertainty, while you were questioning your own instincts, there has been a force of protection standing firmly beside you. Not passively watching, but actively shielding, redirecting, and guarding your path in ways you could not see. There were things that almost happened but didn't. There were conversations that could have taken a different turn but were interrupted. There were decisions you were close to making but something held you back at the last second. That was not coincidence. That was intervention. Archangel Michael hath been moving in ways that are precise and purposeful. Every delay you didn't understand, every closed door that frustrated you, every unexpected shift that forced you to change direction, these were not obstacles. They were acts of protection. You may not have recognized it at the time. In fact, some of those moments may have felt like setbacks. You may have questioned why things were not flowing the way you expected. You may have even felt momentarily disappointed or confused. But what you could not see was what you were being protected from. And now, you are beginning to understand. Because protection does not always feel comfortable. Sometimes it feels like interruption. Sometimes it feels like delay. Sometimes it feels like things are not working in your favor. But in reality, everything is being aligned in your favor, just not in the way you expected. This is the nature of divine protection. It operates beyond what is visible. It moves ahead of you. It sees what is forming before it reaches you. And when necessary, it steps in, decisively and without hesitation. This is exactly what is happening now. The urgency of this message is not separate from that protection. It is a continuation of it. It is the moment where what has been happening behind the scenes is now being revealed to you directly. Because there comes a point where protection is not just about blocking what is harmful, it is about awakening you to what is real. And that awakening requires your participation. Archangel Michael can shield you, guide you, and even intervene on your behalf. But you must also choose awareness. You must choose to stop, to listen, and to align yourself with the direction that is being revealed. Because protection is strongest when it is recognized. Think about this carefully. What if the very thing you thought was delaying you was actually saving you? What if the discomfort you felt was not meant to confuse you, but to redirect you? What if the reason things did not go as planned was because something better, something safer, and something more aligned was being prepared for you? This is not speculation. This is reality. You are being protected in real time. Right now, as you hear these words, there is alignment taking place. There are things being moved out of your path. There are influences losing their hold. There are outcomes being reshaped in ways that will only become clear to you later. But for this protection to fully unfold, you must cooperate with it. That means honoring the instruction to stop. That means paying attention to what is being revealed. That means trusting that even if everything does not make sense yet, it will. Because divine protection is not random. It is intentional, precise, and always working toward your highest good. And this moment, this exact moment, is part of that plan. You are not being interrupted without reason. You are being redirected with purpose. So stand still, not in fear but in awareness. Recognize that you are covered, guided, and shielded. And understand that what is happening right now is not something to question. It is something to trust. Because when protection like this is activated, it means something important is being preserved in your life. There comes a moment in every life when everything narrows down to a single decision. Not a loud, dramatic decision that the world can see, but a quiet, internal choice that determines everything that follows. This is that moment for you. Right now, you are standing at a turning point. On one side is obedience, the willingness to stop, to listen, to trust what God is revealing even if it disrupts your plans. On the other side is delay, continuing forward, convincing yourself that you will figure it out later, that this moment is not as urgent as it feels. But deep inside, you already know the truth. This is not a moment you can postpone. June 18th is not just another day in your timeline. It is a line drawn in your path, a spiritual checkpoint where everything begins to shift based on your response. What you choose here will not only affect what happens next, but how clearly you are able to see what God is trying to show you. Because obedience opens clarity. Delay clouds it. When you choose to stop, when you choose to honor this instruction without resistance, something powerful begins to happen within you. The noise starts to fade. The confusion begins to lift. The subtle signals you once questioned become stronger, clearer, and undeniable. You begin to see with a different kind of vision, not just physical sight, but spiritual awareness. But when you delay, when you push this aside, telling yourself you will come back to it later, the opposite happens. The clarity you were meant to receive begins to fade. The urgency you feel now slowly weakens, and what was once clear becomes uncertain again. This is why timing matters so much. Because there are moments when heaven opens a window of understanding, a brief but powerful opportunity to realign. And when that window is open, everything you need is available to you. Guidance, protection, clarity, direction. But that window does not remain open forever. It requires a response. This is not about fear. This is about alignment. Because what God is asking of you right now is not complicated. He is not asking you to have all the answers. He is not asking you to solve everything immediately. He is simply asking you to stop, to pause long enough to hear Him clearly, to create space where truth can rise above noise. And yet, even something this simple requires a decision. Will you obey or will you delay? Understand this. Obedience does not mean perfection. It means willingness. It means choosing to trust what you feel in your spirit, even if your mind is still catching up. It means allowing God to lead, even when you do not yet see the full picture. And delay often feels harmless. It feels like you are still in control. It feels like you are giving yourself more time. But in reality, delay is where clarity begins to slip away unnoticed. That is why this moment feels so intense. Because your spirit recognizes what is at stake. You may feel a pull within you right now, a quiet but firm urging to take this seriously, to not brush it aside, to actually stop and reflect. That pull is not pressure. It is guidance. It is your spirit aligning with the truth that is being revealed. And this is where everything changes. Because the moment you choose obedience, even in its simplest form, you step into alignment. You position yourself to receive what God has been trying to show you. You move from confusion into clarity, from uncertainty into direction. This is the turning point. Not tomorrow, not later, now. So do not wait for another sign. Do not look for more confirmation. This is the confirmation. Type "I choose obedience" in the comments if you are ready to align with this message. Blessing code 8842 has now been released and activated over your path. And as you stand at this sacred turning point, understand that your obedience does more than shift your own life. It opens doors for others who are still searching for light. God is saying, when you sow in faith, you become a river that never runs dry. If your spirit is moved right now, declare it boldly. I step into this calling. The opportunity to give is placed before you through the PayPal link in the description and the QR code on your screen. This is not just an offering. It is a prophetic act that releases breakthrough, not only for you, but for every soul this message reaches. Step forward now and release what heaven is placing on your heart. Right now, in this exact moment, everything becomes simple. Not easy, but clear. Because after the warning, after the awareness, after the turning point comes instruction. And what God is asking of you right now is not complicated or hidden. It is direct. It is intentional. And it requires your full attention. The first thing you must do is exactly what you were told at the beginning. Stop. Not partially. Not while your mind is still racing in 100 different directions. But fully. Intentionally. Step away from the noise, the distractions, the constant movement that has been surrounding you. This is not about physical stillness alone. It is about mental and spiritual stillness. Because clarity does not speak through chaos. It reveals itself in quiet. Right now, you need space. Space to think clearly. Space to feel what has been buried under routine and urgency. Space to allow everything you have just heard to settle within you without interruption. Because if you rush past this moment, you risk missing the very clarity you were being called to receive. So pause, breathe, and allow yourself to truly be present. The second thing you must do is listen, not with your ears, but with your spirit. There is something already within you that knows what this message is pointing toward. It may not be fully formed yet. It may feel like a feeling rather than a clear answer. But it is there. Pay attention to what rises within you when you become still. Is there a situation that immediately comes to mind? A decision you have been avoiding? A person or environment that suddenly feels different now that you are looking at it more honestly? These are not random thoughts. These are signals coming into focus now that you are finally paying attention. Do not dismiss them. This is where discernment begins. The third thing you must do is create distance where it is needed. This does not mean reacting impulsively or making dramatic changes without thought. It means stepping back enough to observe clearly. If something feels off, give yourself space from it. If something has been clouding your judgment, step away long enough to see it without influence. Distance creates clarity. When you are too close to something, it becomes harder to see it for what it truly is. But when you step back, even slightly, patterns begin to reveal themselves. Truth becomes easier to recognize, and decisions become clearer, not because they are forced, but because they are understood. The fourth thing you must do is pray, but not in a routine, distracted way. This is not about repeating words. This is about connection. Speak honestly. Ask for clarity. Ask for protection. Ask for guidance, not just in general, but specifically about what you are feeling right now. And then listen. Because prayer is not just speaking, it is receiving. There is a difference between asking for direction and being open to it. And right now, openness is everything. Because what you are about to understand may not come in the way you expect. It may come as a realization. It may come as a sudden sense of peace or discomfort. It may come as a clear knowing that something needs to change. And when it comes, trust it. The fifth thing you must do is act, but only after clarity settles in. Not rushed action, not fear-driven decisions. but intentional movement based on what has been revealed to you. Because once you see clearly, once you understand what needs to shift, you cannot remain where you were. Awareness requires response. And that response, when aligned with truth, becomes the beginning of transformation. Understand this. You are not being left to figure this out alone. As you take these steps, guidance will continue to unfold. As you create space, more will be revealed. As you listen, direction will become clearer. This is a process, but it begins with this moment, right now. So do not overcomplicate it. Do not wait for perfect certainty. Do not let hesitation pull you back into distraction. You already have what you need to begin. Stop. Listen. Create space. Pray. And then move with clarity. Because what God needs from you right now is not perfection. It is attention. And through that attention, everything else will follow. There is something extraordinary that most people never realize until much later, sometimes too late. The very thing that feels like a delay in your life is often the doorway to your breakthrough. And right now, that doorway is directly in front of you, hidden within this moment of pause that God has called you into. You may not see it yet. In fact, it may feel like the opposite. Stopping can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like you are losing momentum, like you are falling behind, like things are being put on hold. But what if this pause is not holding you back at all? What if it is actually positioning you ahead of what you cannot yet see? Because that is exactly what is happening. Breakthrough does not come from constant movement. It comes from alignment. And alignment cannot happen when your mind is scattered, when your focus is divided, when your direction is influenced by things you have not fully examined. Alignment requires stillness. It requires awareness. It requires you to step out of motion long enough to see where you truly are. This is why God is asking you to stop, not to take something from you, but to prepare something for you. There is a shift waiting to take place in your life. A shift in clarity. A shift in direction. A shift that will move you closer to what was always meant for you. But that shift cannot happen while you are moving blindly. It requires a moment where everything slows down, where truth rises to the surface, and where you can finally see without distortion. And once you see, everything changes. What once felt confusing begins to make sense. What once felt uncertain becomes clear. What once felt like a struggle begins to reveal its purpose. And suddenly, you are no longer guessing. You are moving with confidence, with direction, with understanding. This is the breakthrough. Not just in your circumstances, but in your perception. Because when your perception shifts, your decisions shift. And when your decisions shift, your outcomes shift. Think about how powerful that is. A single moment of stillness can prevent months of confusion. A single realization can redirect your entire path. A single act of obedience can unlock doors that would have remained closed had you continued forward without awareness. This is why this pause matters so much. It is not empty. It is not wasted time. It is filled with potential. Potential for clarity, for protection, for redirection, and for breakthrough. There are things being aligned for you right now that you cannot yet see. Opportunities that will only make sense once you are in the right position. Connections that will only reveal their value when you are walking in the correct direction. Outcomes that depend on the choice you make in this moment. And that choice is to pause. Because when you pause, you give space for God to work in ways that constant movement does not allow. You give space for truth to rise above distraction. You give space for divine timing to unfold without interference. And when that happens, what comes next is not forced. It is natural. It flows, It aligns. It feels right, not just logically, but deeply within your spirit. This is what you are being prepared for. Not confusion, but clarity. Not struggle, but alignment. Not delay, but breakthrough. But the key to all of it is your willingness to stop. You may feel like you are sacrificing time, but in reality, you are gaining direction. You may feel like you are pausing progress, but in reality, you are preventing missteps. You may feel like you are stepping back, but in reality, you are positioning yourself for something greater. To trust this moment. Trust that what feels like stillness is actually movement in a higher direction. Trust that what feels like a pause is actually preparation. And trust that what is being revealed to you now is leading you exactly where you need to go. Because on the other side of this pause there is a breakthrough waiting. And it is closer than you think. There is something deeply personal about this moment. Something that goes beyond everything that has already been said. Because what you are hearing right now is not new to your soul. It is confirmation. Long before this message reached you, you were already asking questions. Not always out loud, not always in clear words, but within you, there was a search. A quiet reaching for understanding. A desire to know if you were on the right path, if the feelings you had were real, if the hesitation you kept experiencing actually meant something. And now, here it is. Answered. You may not have realized it at the time, but every moment of uncertainty you faced was building toward this. Every time you paused and wondered, is this right? Every time something felt off but you couldn't explain why, every time you asked, even silently, for guidance. Those moments were heard. Nothing was ignored. Nothing was missed. And this message is the response. This is how confirmation often arrives, not as something entirely new, but as something that resonates with what you already felt deep inside. It does not confuse you. It does not contradict your spirit. Instead, it aligns with it. It strengthens it. It gives it clarity and direction. That is exactly what is happening now. You are not being told something foreign. You are being reminded of something familiar. Something your spirit has been trying to bring into your awareness for some time now. And the reason it feels so strong, so direct, is because it is connecting with what is already within you. This is why you cannot ignore it. Because ignoring this would not just be ignoring a message, it would be ignoring yourself. It would be turning away from the very clarity you have been seeking, the very understanding you have been asking for. And deep down, you know that is not what you want. You want truth. You want clarity. You want to move forward with confidence, not doubt. And that is exactly what is being offered to you now. But confirmation is only powerful when it is received. It is not enough to recognize it for a moment and then move on. It is not enough to say, "This makes sense," and then return to old patterns without change. True confirmation calls for alignment. It calls for a shift, and not force, not rush, but intentional. Because once something is confirmed, you are no longer in uncertainty. You are in awareness. And awareness changes everything. It changes how you see your current situation. It changes how you interpret your past decisions. It changes how you approach what comes next. Because now, you are no longer guessing. You are no longer trying to figure things out blindly. You are moving with insight, with understanding, with direction. This is the moment where everything becomes clear. Not necessarily every detail, not every outcome, but the direction itself. A sense of what needs to change, what needs your attention, what needs to be approached differently moving forward. And that clarity is enough. because you do not need to see the entire path to take the next step. You only need to see clearly where you are right now and what needs to shift. And you have that right now. This is your confirmation that you are not lost. This is your confirmation that what you have been feeling is real. This is your confirmation that God has been guiding you, even when you did not fully understand how. And most importantly, this is your confirmation that you are exactly at the moment where change becomes possible. Everything you need has been placed before you: awareness, understanding, direction. Now, it is simply a matter of what you choose to do with it. Because confirmation is not the end of the journey. It is the moment where the journey becomes clear. And from here everything you do carries purpose. Everything you choose carries intention. And everything that unfolds from this point forward will reflect the clarity you have received right now. Beloved soul, now that you have heard, now that you have seen, now that you understand, something within you is beginning to settle. The urgency that once felt overwhelming is now transforming into something different. Peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from everything being figured out, but the kind that comes from knowing you are finally aligned. This is what happens after obedience. When you choose to stop, when you choose to listen, when you choose to trust what God has revealed instead of resisting it, a shift takes place within you. The noise that once filled your mind begins to quiet. The confusion that once clouded your thoughts begins to lift. And in its place, there is stillness, clarity, and a deep, unshakable sense that you are exactly where you need to be. You may not have all the answers yet. You may not see the full picture of what lies ahead. But something inside you knows. You are no longer walking blindly. You are no longer guessing. You are no longer moving without direction. You are aligned. And alignment brings peace. This is the reward of obedience. Not instant perfection, not immediate solutions to everything, but peace that anchors you, peace that steadies you, peace that reminds you that you are being guided every step of the way. As you move forward from this moment, things will begin to feel different. The same situations that once confused you will now appear clearer. The same choices that once felt overwhelming will now feel more manageable. And the same path that once felt uncertain will now begin to reveal itself step by step. This is not because everything around you has suddenly changed. It is because you have. You took the moment to stop. You honored the warning. You allowed yourself to see what needed to be seen. And because of that, you are now walking with awareness instead of assumption. That changes everything. And know this: you are not walking forward alone. Archangel Michael continues to stand with you, not just in moments of urgency, but in every step you take from here. His protection does not end with this message. It continues, quietly and powerfully, guiding you away from harm and toward what is meant for you. There is nothing for you to fear moving forward, because when you walk in awareness, when you walk in alignment, when you walk in obedience, you are covered. So release any remaining doubt. Release the fear of what if. Release the pressure to have everything figured out. You have already done what was needed in this moment. You listen, and that alone has shifted your path. Now, move forward with calm confidence. Take your steps with intention. Trust what you feel within you. And remember that peace is not something you have to chase. It is something that follows you when you are aligned with truth. Let this moment stay with you, not as something temporary, but as a turning point you will always remember. The moment you chose to stop. The moment you chose to listen. The moment everything began to change. Type "I walk in peace" in the comments if you receive this message fully. Blessing code 2219 is now activated over your life. And as this peace settles over you, Hear this calling as something sacred. What you receive today is not just for you. It is a light meant to reach others who are still lost in noise and confusion. God is speaking right now. When you sow into my work, you become a vessel of oil that never runs dry, a lamp that lights the path for many. If your spirit is stirred, say it with faith. I release my seed into this mission. The PayPal link in the description and the QR code on your screen are your altar of obedience in this moment. This is not just giving. It is planting into fertile ground where souls are awakened and destinies are redirected. As you give, may your life overflow with divine favor, unexpected provision, and multiplied peace. Step into this act now and release what God is placing on your heart.